what is religion? Religion, like art, is an attempt to deal with the non-rational. That's not irrational, non-rational. Those powerful forces that inform all of our lives. Love, beauty, the search for meaning, our mortality, grief, alienation. These cannot be empirically measured. That's why Freud said he could never finally write about love. He could write about sex, but he couldn't write about love. And religious systems are human creations. God is a human concept. All religious systems are flawed. All of them are finite attempts to deal with the infinite, to deal with those transcendent forces and the need that human beings have for the sacred. And I think art, in early religious life, art and religion were not divorced. I think art itself is a religious ritual, certainly an important ritual. And what art and religion are trying to do is acknowledge, preserve, and to a certain extent explain these forces that make up a complete human being. And I think that is probably one of the great failings of the new atheists, in that they don't distinguish between the non-rational and the irrational. I'm certainly a great admirer of Darwin. Evolutionary biology is one of the great leap forwards in our intellectual tradition. I don't find this in conflict with the religious life. The questions of science are not the questions of religion. Science is not, there aren't plural truths in science the way there is within human society. So I think that the importance of religion is that it is an attempt to move us beyond the accumulation of data or knowledge and make possible wisdom. In the Oriental tradition, Buddhism, it doesn't matter how many sutras you memorize. You will never be wise by memorizing sutras. It is a matter of understanding those non-rational forces that go into making up human nature and human society. It is about understanding intuition. And that is finally what leads to wisdom. The Bible has always been read selectively. Every religious tradition does. I think one of the other mistakes the new atheists make is that dogma is somehow important. Religious dogma has nothing to do with what people believe. That's based on socioeconomic conditions, culture, history. Talking about all Muslims as if they're the same is like saying, well, a Bolivian Catholic is the same as a French Catholic because they're both Catholics. Anybody who has lived as I have for 7 years in the Middle East understands that a Turkish Muslim is not the same as a Sudanese Muslim. They're colored by the cultures and traditions and national characteristics that go into forming their own community. Look at American Catholics. Pope Benedict can issue as many turgid encyclicals as he wants about birth control or anything else, and everyone ignores him. And that's true in every religious tradition. So the notion that somehow you look at the Quran, you find passages, and they're there, that are, repugnant, morally repugnant, and that therefore you understand Islam is childish. In terms of dealing with fundamentalists, I think that we have to be... you can't argue with somebody who has been seduced by a non-reality-based world. You can lay down all the evidence that you want, showing that the world was not created 6,000 years ago, and dinosaurs did not roam the earth with humankind, and they will dismiss it as sort of corrupted by secular humanism, which they have defined as a rival ideology. I think that we are far better addressing the core issues that drive people into the arms of this movement, which is health care, decent jobs, federal and state assistance, good public schools, essentially recreating a society where people have hope. Because without hope, you are driven into the arms of demagogues and charlatans. And was there another question I missed there?
Do you believe in a living God with whom one can have a personal relationship? And if so, how does this impact your approach to atheists?
No, I don't. I was in Sarajevo during the war when it was being hit with 2,000 shells a day, constant sniper fire, 4 to 5 dead a day, 24 wounded a day. 45 foreign reporters were killed in Sarajevo, scores were wounded. 2,000 children died in that city. I do not believe that God had a plan for me to survive. My life is not worth more than the lives of those children who were killed. I think that kind of narcissism, which infects the industrialized world, is possible because we do live in zones of safety. But I have not spent my life in zones of safety. I survived the war in Sarajevo because I had a $100,000 armored Land Rover and $5,000 worth of body armor and bodyguards. I understand the cold reality and the horrible neutrality of the world around us. I don't believe in a personal God. I don't believe in an anthropomorphic God. I don't believe in heaven or hell. I think Dostoevsky got it right. What is hell? Hell is the inability to love. Hell is that complete isolation where one can no longer connect with another. Look, religious systems are important as metaphors. When Freud wanted to write about the internal dynamics of the human psyche, he went back to the Greek myths, not because he thought the Greek myths were literally true, but because the Greek myths expressed a truth about the human condition. The writers of the book of Genesis knew nothing about the process of creation. They thought the earth was flat. But they did know something about the purpose of creation. And I think that we ignore these religious myths at our peril. It is like Lynn Cheney talking about novels not being true, and therefore not important. This is a kind of pedantic, childish view of the world that precludes the possibility of wisdom. I don't think you can understand fully the human condition or at least give a vocabulary to it without reading works like Proust or Beckett or Shakespeare. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And the same is true for great religious thinkers, Erasmus, Augustine, Reinhold Niebuhr. Niebuhr's first great book, Moral Man and Immoral Society, didn't have one Bible verse in it at all. It was a social criticism. And that's what he certainly was informed by a religious tradition. Paul Tillich's great work, the first book, one of the first books banned by the Nazis, was called The Socialist Dilemma. The Nazis went to the warehouses when they took power and seized it. It never appeared until after the war. He was the first non-Jewish professor blacklisted and denied a university post anywhere in Germany because he understood that a religious or a belief system that was not intimately engaged with culture at that moment, he called it taking time seriously, was irrelevant. And people who stand on moral principle, and they can do that certainly outside of religious structures, have become are powerful forces in society. If everyone sat around in 1940 in France and said, well, we better work with Vichy because it's practical, because nothing can happen with a resistance, where would the soul of France have been? And I think that, for me, religiosity is a way of being. It is one, where one accepts mystery. One accepts our inability finally to ever understand. And I think that is, repeated throughout both the Greek and the Hebrew Bibles. I mean, when Moses asks God who he is, he says, I am who I am, or you will know me when you know me. and I think that's true. I think that those who fail to fully explore the religious impulse, the ability to connect with those transcendent forces, are not fully human.